Chapter 40, Big and Bigger. There were people who cared and people who didn't. I was the kind of person who cared. I guess this is obvious considering my habit of cleaning up other people's trash and how I treated Marvin Gardens, but sometimes I cared too much, if there was such a thing. I was the boy who'd lost his turf and buried things under people's front steps. It was nice to meet other people who cared too much too, but it was scary. I was an 11-year-old kid, and they were professional adults who knew a lot more than I did about pretty much everything. As we waited for them to come, I got that nervous feeling and I feared a nosebleed. But then I remembered I didn't get those anymore. My hands got a little sweaty. But then I looked at Mom and I knew she was on my team, with the Devlin look in her eye. The game warden was pretty cool. He wasn't in a uniform like I expected. He was just in jeans and a t-shirt. He stuck his hand out for me to shake and was eager to see Marvin. Ms. G introduced me to her friend, Dr. Carey. She smiled a lot, and you could tell from her eyes that she was a kind person. Ms. G had changed out of her school clothes, and she was in jeans and hiking boots. It was weird to see her like that. Mom introduced herself. "I'm Kathleen Devlin," she said. Everyone shook hands, and the game warden looked at me. "Let's go see what you got, kid." I walked them down the road instead of through phase 3 and said, "I really should have checked the creek first in case he's roaming for food. He usually roams after the workmen leave." None of them answered me. I wondered if I'd even said it out loud. When we got to the bridge, I told them to follow me, and they did, and I said, "Give me a little space. I don't want him to be scared." They fell back a bit. That was when I had all my second thoughts. What if they took him away? Would he end up in some lab getting shot full of weird chemicals? Would they separate the family? I kept walking, but my feet were moving slower. I half thought about pretending that the den was somewhere else and that Marvin and his whole family were gone and there was nothing to see. "Move along, nothing to see here." I stopped. "What's wrong?" Mom asked. "I want to make sure none of you are going to hurt Marvin." "Who's Marvin?" the game warden said. "It's the animal," Miss G said. Dr. Carey, the biologist, shook her head. "We're here to help. Promise." I took a deep breath and kept walking the riverbank. The den was less than 30 feet from us now, and I called out, "Hey, Marvin, I'm back." No answer. I walked faster. "Marvin?" No answer. I ran up onto the bank and grabbed the trees to help me around the brush in front of Marvin's den. I said, "Marvin, are you in there?" The others stayed on the other side of the den. I got on my knees and peeked into the burrow. Marvin was there, grinning at me. "You're real funny," I said. Marvin made his talking noise, and I loped out of the den. His blue splotch was nearly gone. I looked in and saw that Boardwalk and the babies had blue paint around their lips. The paint must have been plastic. It was nice that they could eat the thing that hurt Marvin. "I have some people I want you to meet," I said. When I turned around, the adults were looking at me like I was a little crazy. "I talked to him to make him feel welcome here," I said. "It's not like he understands exactly what I'm saying." The next 5 minutes were a mix of fast and slow. I scratched Marvin's head while the others made their way around, but there wasn't enough room for all of us. The game warden said, "Well, I'll be damned." Dr. Carey, the biologist, whispered, "Wow," maybe 50 times. Miss G and Mom didn't say anything. They just watched the whole thing from up a little higher on the bank. "Maybe he's hungry," I said. "Usually he has food down here. It's all gone." There was a splash behind me. Boardwalk was swimming. Dr. Carey whispered, "Wow," again and started taking video with the camera. The game warden said, "This is the craziest thing I've ever seen." Dr. Carey said, "He's so friendly." I said, "Marvin, sit," and Marvin sat. "He's trained too. I mean, a little. I've only known him 2 weeks." "You think he only started living here 2 weeks ago?" Dr. Carey asked. "I don't know. It was the first time I saw him. Before that, it was still cold and stuff. Maybe he came out because it's spring," I said. "He could hibernate, I suppose," the game warden said. "The offspring look older than 2 weeks old," Dr. Carey said. "I don't think he came here to reproduce." Boardwalk swam to the middle of the river and called out to Marvin, who was still sitting. He looked at me and then Boardwalk, and he loped over to the bank and jumped into the water. He swam close to the bank until each of the babies jumped in after him. They played swimming games. "I guess they're old enough to swim," I said. Dr. Carey kept her video camera on the river. "I'll get DNA samples today." "Do you have to stick him with a needle?" I asked. No, I can collect hair, she answered. I'll need to get some scat, too. Um, I said. Miss G said, it's okay. I explained the scat situation. Dr. Carey said, I brought some metal containers in case it melts the usual specimen jars. I looked at Miss G and smiled, and she smiled at me. I said, I would have never found him if I didn't collect trash in the creek. Obie cleans up every day. Nobody else around here does, Mom said. He's our little conservationist. I didn't like Mom calling me little. Marvin, I called. I held up the tennis ball. He grinned. I threw it upriver and he swam to the right place to catch it in his mouth and bring it back to shore. Wow, Dr. Carey whispered again. Marvin climbed on shore, dropped the ball at my feet, and shook the water off himself. The babies and Boardwalk swam ashore after him. The 5 of us humans stood there, 4 of us in awe, and me in a state of bigness. This was my discovery, my friend, and I felt 1,000,000 feet tall. 100 years ago, this is what it must have felt like to own 175 acres of land. Pride. 100 years ago, it must have felt awful to lose every acre because of a problem. I looked at Mom standing there watching the whole Marvin family, and I guessed that her fierceness came from something other than pride, because her family had lost their pride, and now I knew what it was. It was shame. I understood shame. I knew Annie understood shame. I think we both deserved to feel pride again, and so did Mom. So what do we do now? I asked. Mom looked at her watch. We have time to make Bernadette's game if you still want to go. Dr. Carey said, I'll get the DNA samples. That's it for today. I'll talk with you about visiting and monitoring. I want to come back tomorrow, same time, and I need the scat sample. I'm going to have to talk to my office about what to do here, the game warden said. I think we should get word out that this is a temporarily protected area or something. I don't know. Bears. I don't know what to do, but this is a new one for me. Why don't you take us to the scat circles, Oh, Miss G said, and thank you for sharing with us. I'm so glad you did. And right then, all 4 of them looked at me like I was some sort of hero, and I felt bigger than I'd ever felt.